Hi, welcome to video 2 of the introduction unit of this course. So you should have filled out the first pages of your study guide in the last video, so just pick up right where you left off with the same study guide. In this short video, we're going to talk about levels of organization of living things. This is important because it's important to understand living things at all the different levels that they can be looked at. And some people specialize in just one level. So there are people who only study the macromolecules, or people who only study the cells. And each level has traits and characteristics that shape the next level up, but they are all different. So life is studied at many levels, and each level is highly organized, has its own properties. This is important. And so let's start with the smallest levels of organization. So an atom, the basic unit of all matter or physical stuff, we'll be looking at those more later in the course. So often we just show those as little spheres. Molecule. So a molecule is just atoms stuck together. Here are some examples of small molecules. Now, molecules can be relatively huge. DNA is a huge molecule. Of course, huge for a molecule still isn't very big. So you can actually see DNA in a microscope, but you do need a microscope still to see it. Okay, so organelle. This might be an unfamiliar word. An organelle is a very small structure within a cell that performs a function for the cell. So if this is a cell, right, which your body is made of trillions of those, the organelles are the little things inside the cell, and they might look kind of mysterious and weird now, but we will learn about those also, that perform functions for the cell. So then, of course, cell is very important. Cell is the smallest level that is actually considered alive. So the ones we just looked at, those are important in making up life. But we're going to look at what it means to be alive, and a cell actually is the smallest thing that's alive. Weird, isn't it, that living things are made of things that we don't consider alive? So cell is the basic unit of life, and the smallest thing with all the properties of life, the properties that something needs to have to be alive. And all living things have cells. So cells there are many different kinds of cells that look very different from each other. So lung cells don't actually have blue in them. These are stained so that you can see different parts of them, and people stain cells in different ways. Lung cells, skin cells, these are different types of cells in your body. Nerve cells have these long things coming out of them so they can connect to each other to communicate. All right, and fungus cells, some of these might be in your body, but these are not human cells. Many different types of organisms with different types of cells. So moss cells, and we're going to learn a lot about these little green things inside the moss cell. These are cells from the skin of a leaf, the surface of a leaf. I really think they're quite beautiful. All right, and some organisms only have one cell, so then we call it a single cell organism. The entire organism is made of one cell. And bacteria has cells also. Okay, so levels bigger than the cell. A tissue is a group of cells with a certain function. There's skin tissue. For example, you also have muscle tissue, group of cells. The next level up is the organs. So don't get organ confused with organelle. So now an organ is many tissues together that work and have a certain function. So plants, you might not have thought of plants, but plants have organs. And a plant organ could be something such as a leaf or a flower or a stem. Humans, of course, have organs. Your liver is an organ. Your lungs are organs. And then we get larger than organs. Organ system, a group of organs with a function. So your circulatory system, your heart and your blood vessels, your nervous system, your brain and your nerves. Okay, an organism, we've already used that word. An individual, a living individual, and it can be an animal, a plant, a bacterium, organism. And then levels bigger than the individual, getting bigger and bigger. Population, that's a word that we use in everyday speech. In biology, it has a certain specific meaning. It means all the individuals of a given type or species living in an area. So there is a population of humans that live in North America. There's a population of seals that live in the Atlantic Ocean. Okay, see how that works? All right, so population, they're all the same type of organism. And then community, so getting bigger, now we're adding all the populations together. So in Africa on the savannah, you might have wildebeests and giraffes and zebras and the plants and trees, and all living things together is a community. And then you can add the living or biotic and non-living or abiotic things in an area. And so the ecosystem here would include the soil and the air and the sunshine, and even the weather is the ecosystem. And so the community plus all the non-living things then is the ecosystem. And the largest level is called the biosphere. So the biosphere is just the layer of life. Where do my hands go so you can see them? The layer of life all the way around the planet. Just like the atmosphere is the layer of air, the biosphere is the layer of life everywhere around the planet. Okay, so neighbor discussion. Again, your neighbor could be your goldfish or your dog, or maybe your neighbor is over having tea and you want to discuss biology. Sort through what you've learned. I cheated a little bit here because questions 1 and 2 are really from the last video. But look at the spider monkey. What adaptations does it have? Look back, make sure you understand the definition of adaptations. Again, hopefully you've made your calendar and you have your to-do all sorted out for question 1. Okay, and question 3 is actually about this video. So give as many levels of organization as you can without looking, okay? Do a little bit of review here. What's the biggest level? What's the smallest level? Take the next step and see if you can define them all. Okay, and this is the end of video 2. I will see you in the next video.